my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop, and Spence has done it again. Old Spence, he's sent me a lot of instruments. He lives north of me here a couple hours or so. He has sent me a lot of instruments over the years, and today he topped it all. He brought in 7. And I think he wants them all done before he leaves, because he's going to stay at the rental retreat. Well, that's okay. We'll work with you. This mandolin here, I don't know, yeah, I've worked on it before. It's the one I put an extension under here. I don't remember all the things I did to it. I might have put a different fretboard on it even. It kind of looks like it. But anyway, the point is he wants a pickguard on it. This pickguard came out of our in-stock stuff, and I'm going to find a way to mount it to his mandolin here. So that's the first little job that we're going to do. So here we go. Now, you know, nothing's easy. That's another one of my t-shirts I need to make. Nothing's easy. Even though I say it's simple, but it's complicated. And that kind of proves my point that nothing is easy. So I have 2 choices. I could line this thing up with this hole that's already here, because this pickguard didn't necessarily come on this mandolin. And I could do that, but then I'd have to set this back here to make it work. Or I could set it here for the looks on the front, but then I got to make a new hole. And I guess I'm going to go with the looks on the front, because that's the only thing that seems to make sense. And the other problem I have with this is these pins are really short on this, and the extension on this mandolin is way back under the fretboard. And by the time I get these pins into a little hole, they're, you know, it's just barely going to be in there, inserted into the hole. I don't know, it just ain't easy being me. That's the only thing I can tell you. And so I'm trying to figure it out, but it's trying to fight me every step of the way. So I think I'm just going to put it right there and wiggle it until those pins make an indentation in that extension there, that I can take a little drill and just deepen them, and then we'll make a new hole wherever the hole happens to be. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll show you the next step here once I get to drilling this. Well, I've hit my next predicament. These little wire drills is what I need to drill these holes with, so that they'll be smaller than the nails in this pickguard. But the only thing that will hold them is this drill here, and the problem is this end on this drill is too big around to get in here and drill them straight. So I even made this little thing for holding little drills. The little ferrule on the inside there doesn't close down tight enough to work on these little wire drill bits. So the only other option I can come up with would be to well, maybe I can find another little type of drill that I've got. I'll look around. I don't know. Got to find some way to hold this to spin it and make a hole. Well, my friends, you know, I often show you little brain teaser things. Here's one that's teasing my brain, and I can't figure it out. This is the drill chuck. This one will go down to tiny size. It fits on my Dremel perfectly, right? I might be able to use the Dremel to drill this. I haven't tried that yet, and I might be able to do that. So that may solve my problem. But I thought, well, I'll just use this little hand drill, spin it by hand, put this on there, right? This, if you look at this is what was on there on the hand drill. It's a Dremel end, fits it perfectly, goes down real nice and snug and tight, and everything works perfectly. I've been using it quite a bit. This also fits on the Dremel perfectly, goes on there perfectly and everything. This goes on the Dremel perfectly, as you can see. No problem. Well, it always has until I show you on video. There it is. It's going right on. No problem. Now, watch this. It slides on there. It doesn't thread at all. Now that's a brain puzzler. I don't get that at all. This fits this, no problem. doesn't make sense. This fits this, no problem. This fits this, no problem. But this is too big for this. Yeah, you just can't, you gotta wonder. You just gotta wonder. That's just nuts. You know, those people that do magic on TV, they ain't got nothing on me. Okay, let's see if I can drill these holes with this. This is my only option at the moment. Seems to have worked. Let's see if by chance they line up with this. That would be also really nice. Aha! Success! They do line up. And whether or not they're going to stay or not, that's a different story. But they do seem to line up. And now I need to make a new hole for this. I'm trying to get it lined up so that it doesn't pull the front one out of the hole when I tighten it down here, because these are barely in the hole as it is. Doggone it, they're just barely in the hole. I'm going to mark where the hole needs to be here. And I'll just go ahead and use this little tiny drill to drill a new hole. And then we'll see if we can find us a screw that'll work for this. I found a gold screw that seems to work well enough. I've already put some beeswax on the screw, and I'm going to try to drive it into this hole first before I put the pickguard on, just to get it used to going in this hole. Might have to enlarge the hole just a little bit. It's going through binding, and that's making it a little tougher. I think I'll enlarge the hole just a little, just the very beginning of the hole where the binding is. Just enough to get through the binding. That might make it easier to get the screw started. Yep, that worked. And then it should go into the wood without too much trouble. Okay, I think we got it. That worked, and it's in there. I kind of surprised it worked, but it seems to have worked. And it's nice and snug. I mean, you could pull it out, don't get me wrong, but it's nice and snug. It's not just going to fall out. So now the only problem is it left a little bit of a nub here, and I don't like to see that sticking out like that. So I'm going to grind that off. And I'll either grind it off with the Dremel tool or pinch it off with the side cutters first, and then maybe grind it a little bit. I think I'll try pinching it off first. Yep, that worked. And it worked great, except I can't find it. There it is, a little piece. I'll throw that in the trash. And then we'll take the Dremel tool and we'll use a little grinder on it. And we'll round that little screw off where we cut it off. I think that worked pretty well, so I think we're in good shape. We'll just dust it off, and so project number 1 out of 7 completed. Here's another one of the instruments that Spence brought to us. It's got a lot of cracks in it, especially on the back. He said he was sitting in the house and he heard it pop. Well, I went ahead and glued this up last night, glued these cracks. I put this clamp across here with leather on both sides, and I'm in no wider than the crack was. I could not squeeze it back together, and I'm not exaggerating. I pushed as tight as I could at the risk of breaking it. I was really afraid I would break the sides or something. So I put as much pressure on it as I felt comfortable doing, and it would not move at all. In other words, it wouldn't squeeze any glue out of the crack because of, you would think you could do that. Okay, Spence's theory is that the house is so dry that the wood shrunk, the back shrunk and caused it to break. Well, I'm not discounting that. I'd say that that's a possibility. I have seen with these Gibsons, so many Gibsons, and in fact, he brought 2 of them, and I'll show you another one that's got the same kind of problem. I don't think it's the drying out so much, because here's my theory on it, and you can take your own take on this. They dry the wood down to 6% moisture content when you make an instrument. It's very hard to dry that last 6% of moisture out of any wood. I mean, it's really hard to do it. That's why they stop at 6%. That's one of the reasons. The point is, even if you did dry that last 6% moisture out of the wood, how much is it going to shrink? Not very much. I mean, really not very much. It's already shrunk about as much as it's ever going to shrink. My theory is, especially with these Gibsons, because I've seen it time and time and time and time and time again over the 40 years, is they built them under tension. And I mean, I think they had some sort of a machine or whatever that forced the wood into their mold or to the shape, and the wood was wanting to spring out. I don't think they pre-bent the wood to get it to stay in the shape that it needed to be in. And they all have this tendency to spring outward, and it pulls the wood apart. And it's pulled it apart here, it's pulled apart here, pulled it apart here. And this one's not even that bad, but that's also why you can't push it back together. These sides have, spent 50 years, 100 years, whatever the case might be, trying to push out. And you can't get it to go back together. Well, that's my theory. I could be wrong. No doubt no one really is going to know, but that's what it appears to me to be after the 40 years of seeing this time and time again. I mean, I've seen it countless times. And not everybody's house is that dry, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, even if you did have a really dry house, I mean, it's not as dry as a kiln is, and kilns are hot and dry, and they can't get the wood down below 6% moisture content. So here's the other one. Now this one's even got way more representation. Crack here, crack here, crack here, crack here, crack here, crack here. I mean, just cracks everywhere. This had opened up again also. I was able to squeeze this one a little bit, but it was hard, and I have this clamp stressed pretty hard. So I just unstressed it. I don't know if the crack's going to open back up or not. The evidence for this one of the sides pushing out to me is that the back, I want to say it's nearly 1/4 inch too small. And, I'm not saying it's a full 1/4 inch, but it's pretty small. Here you've got at least a 1/16 of an inch. Let's say it's an 1/8 inch small. In my opinion, this back is about 1/8 inch too small for the sides. The top is cracked. It looks like it's only cracked in the one place that I see, but that's all it takes is one crack, And anyway, that's more my theory on it. Again, this is another Spence instrument also. So, it could be the drying thing, that it could play into it, don't get me wrong. I mean, wood gets old and old and old, and people say, well, it dries out. I don't think it dries out so much as it does is vibrates all of the resins out of the wood. And those resins are powdery and dry. But the wood itself, it's like a sponge, man. I mean, the least little bit of moisture you add to it, it sucks it up and swells up. Think about it like this. A door in a house. How many times have you seen the door get loose? They get tight really a lot, and you'll have to plane the edge of the door down to keep it from sticking. I've had some doors that I've had to plane down 3 or 4 times to keep them from sticking because they just keep swelling up. And my house is pretty dry. So I don't know. The thing about drying out wood, you got to do some real convincing to make me believe that that's the problem. I seriously see it a different way. And I know I'm about the only guy out there in the field spouting it that way, but you know, Galileo was the only guy with his theory too. So, you know, it is what it is, as I say. And there's what the mandolin looks like with the pickguard on it. So it turned out real nice.
Got another little job here as Spencer dropped off. You've probably seen me work on this before, this little tenor guitar. I'm not doing a whole lot today. Spencer just asked that we change out the tailpiece, and so that's what I'm going to do. I've got the strings loose, but I'm going to have to get them all the way off here. I am going to try to reuse these strings. Well, for me to get the new tailpiece on, I need to fill these old holes because none of them line up with the new tailpiece. So I've got a little piece of mahogany that I've kind of beveled at the ends, and I'm going to stick it in there and get some glue, and then I'll cut it off and it'll fill the hole real well.
Coffee, tea, and soda pop written on the faded window sign. Ruby and Pearl are her best friends. There you'll find the three of them.
So now that I've got those little mahogany plugs in there, I'm going to give the glue some time to set up before I go on to my next step. Here's another old familiar face, this Sherwood Standard. Jerry worked on this. I'm pretty sure it was shortly after I got here. But another just quick little job. We're going to put a pickguard on it. We got the pickguard here, it's going on. But I'm going to start by filling this hole here. And hopefully I can do that all right here. There you can see the hole. Hopefully I can get a little glue. No such luck. Alright. Going to steal Jerry. Technically it's not stealing Jerry's glue, because technically it's all Jerry's glue. That was another tapered plug, and that is a soft wood. It's spruce. It's actually the cutoff of a brace. It was used on the inside of a guitar, so I just tapered it down and so it would fit in the hole, and put a little glue, cut it off. We're going to let that sit up probably while I go to lunch, so then when I get back I can work on getting this pickguard on. Well, I'm back to this tenor guitar. I give this quite a bit of time to set up, get totally dry. I'm going to just take my chisel and real carefully try to knock those flat. I've got this sitting in my chair with the headstock down so it doesn't move. The headstock's sitting in the crease in the bottom of the chair, so I can stand up and work on the bottom a little easier. I think that's probably good. Something I think I'm going to do is try to get a center line based on where that was, so I can mark it a little better when I get the new one. So I'll grab my calipers, and I guess we'll go from the outside of those two screw holes. It is 837 thousandths. So I'll go ahead and divide that by 2. That'd be 418-ish thousandths. That's 418. That'll be pretty close. I'm just going to leave a little mark. That seems pretty good. Go grab a square and a pencil. The pencil isn't going to mark very good on the finish, but it'll mark well enough. So I've got a center line now for the tailpiece. I don't know how well you can see it, but it is on there. I'm going to grab the new tailpiece. So I got my center line marked, and I'm kind of putting this on here, but what I've noticed is the old tailpiece was not centered with the end pin. So if I line this up centered to the old tailpiece, because all I have to do is get my line centered in my center hole, it's slightly offset from the end pin. But you know, if I center it with the end pin, then I wasn't centered where it used to be, and I'm really not sure which one is better. So I had Jerry take a look at this, and he says we're going to aim to center with the end pin. So I got it there, and I'll get my awl and I'll mark it. I've got a really small drill bit, and I don't remember what size, but it's really small. There we go. So I've kind of coated the little screws with a little bit of beeswax, and I'm going to drive them in before I got the tailpiece so that the hole is ready.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30. You can set a watch by their routine. Classic small town Norman Rockwell scene.
Well, you can see I've got all the strings back on here. Now the last thing for me to do is to work on getting this thing tuned up. Well, with that new tailpiece on and the strings up to tune, that's another one done. We can start working on the next part. So I'm back at this Sherwood Standard, and my plugs have dried up pretty good, and I've kind of trimmed them back. I'm starting to work on the pickguard because he asked that we do pins into the side of the neck, so I need to set this pickguard up to do that. What I've gone ahead and made is this little backing piece that we're going to glue to the underside of this. It matches it pretty well. It's not exact yet, but I'm getting it pretty close. One thing I did, it's kind of subtle, is there's an under bevel to this, so it bevels back in so that hopefully you won't see it so much, or it'll look a little bit more professional, I think. It could be sanded back a little bit more because it doesn't quite match, so I'll work on this a little bit more. But Jerry's got me some nails I'm going to use as pins, and I think I've got the locations I want them marked with pencil. So I'm just about ready to do that. What we'll do is we'll basically route a little channel in the bottom of this pickguard, drop the nails in, and then we'll glue this on top. Get it all good and clamped, and then it should be good to go. That's what we'll do when we're ready to do it. I'm going to go sand this a little bit more to get it to match just a little bit better. Well, I think I'm ready to route two thin little channels in this pickguard. You can probably see I've got pencil line and Sharpie line. I'm going to follow the Sharpie line, and it should be just what I need. I think I'm ready to go.
They talk about the where's and whens, a little gossip now and then about who's doing what, maybe why. You mean to tell me you don't know about what's her name and so? Can you believe that Oakwood's still alive? Their own little corner of the world.
Alright, so I'm pretty happy with those. The nails sit in and they won't move too much, and that's kind of the idea, is just get them so they won't move. So I'm detaching it from the table. So I've got the piece I'm getting ready to glue on, and I noticed it was really smooth, and the glue will stick better if it's not. So I've got some really gritty sandpaper, and I'm just scuffing it up more or less. I'm gonna glue this on with the canopy glue. So the pickguard's all glued up and it's looking really good. One thing I'm gonna do that Jerry suggested is round the ends of the pins, otherwise they'll catch on the way in. So I've got a little file and I'm just gonna... Alright, that's pretty good. What I'm gonna do now is try to get it kind of where I want it. And I'll put an impression in there Alright, so I've got two little marks on the neck there, and now I've got my long stick and drill bit so I can work on getting the holes in.
Oh, for ruby and
Well, you saw me stick the pickguard in and put a little bit of the super fatted glue on the bottom retainer bit. And to kind of weight the pickguard down on it, I put the battery to my drill on there, and I'm going to go ahead and just let it sit for a little while, make sure that glue is good and set. And then we should be good. I think this will be done then. So we'll give this some time to set up. Well, we got the pickguard on there, and that would make this thing ready to go. So this is number 3 out of the ones we filmed, and we've got all the other ones done. So we're ready to send these all on their way. I hope you enjoyed watching this little menagerie of repairs between me and Jerry. If you did, a thumbs up would be much appreciated. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.